I'm Barbara Boyd, and this is your Monday Brief. Now, tomorrow, President Trump and President Putin will talk. The parameters of the deal being discussed are being made somewhat clear by statements made on Sunday and previously. From the American side, it is noted publicly that Ukraine will have to give up some territory. NATO membership is off the table. Russia has stated that European troops on the ground in Ukraine, as proposed by the European Union's warriors, I'm putting that in quotes, as so-called guarantors of security or otherwise, is a red line, a provocation which will not be tolerated by Russia. It means nothing less than war. Russia has also made very clear what its negotiating posture is, and made that clear really from the outset of the special operation in Ukraine in 2022. They will not tolerate hostile forces on their border, be they Ukraine's ample supply of neo-Nazis or European proxy troops in possession of weapons which can be fired deep inside Russia. No NATO membership. The parts of Ukraine which house Russian populations and have been secured in the war and have voted to join Russia will have to have their wishes ratified in some way. What is happening with the Ukrainian troops surrounded in Kursk, which President Trump asked not to be annihilated, is at this moment unclear. Most accounts say some kind of chaotic retreat is underway, but those are mostly Ukrainian-based accounts. The British and the French, Zelensky and others in NATO continue to demand that they be allowed to occupy Ukraine with troops or provide Ukraine with lethal weaponry capable of continuing to wage war with Russia. Otherwise, they are attempting to organize most of the dying European economies into a hostile bloc with the dream of making their economies work again through defense production. Now that the United States has made it clear that Europe and the British are not their major priority in the world, that the Atlantic Alliance, so-called, is mad and delusional and needs to learn its actual place. Now, Susan will cover the results of these negotiations on Wednesday. It is important to note that these talks about peace are not just direct conversations between Putin and Trump, but, as Trump has said, involve other major players, namely China and India. In the Middle East, Trump's trusted envoy, Steve Witkoff, will meet in Qatar for further negotiations concerning the remaining hostages and phase 2 of the ceasefire. As importantly, he's meeting with Arab leaders about their plans for Gaza after the war. The chief problem is that Arab leaders concede privately that they could provide troops and government for Gaza, absent Hamas, but won't commit publicly because of the rage against Israel from the Arab street. Putin's involvement in this at this point, in collaboration with Trump, would be a huge boost to the peace process here also. Now, concerning the economic picture, Scott Bessett, the Treasury Secretary, was on NBC Meet the Press on Sunday, and you should watch it because it makes very clear what the financial oligarchy strategy is. Bessett throughout is calm and assured. Christine Welker, the host of Meet the Press, on the other hand, is so overwrought that she is virtually spitting out her questions, which are all the lying talking points of the establishment. Aren't tariffs creating uncertainty which will crash the market? Aren't you upset about the turmoil in the market? Will you say right here and now that there won't be a recession? Aren't the tariffs being administered irrationally and wildly by Donald Trump? Aren't Doge and Musk effectively wrecking every certitude in American political life? Isn't the population upset? Isn't consumer confidence plunging? This followed a week in which every establishment organ was pumping out the same panic propaganda. Larry Summers, Bill Clinton's economic guru, who has pronounced the U.S. on the edge of a major recession in 2024 ever since 2022, was trotted out to say that Trump was now the cause of a looming recession. One of the lower leaders of the European Central Bank said that Trump's uncertainty was worse than COVID. You get the point. Bessett countered with reality. The wild government spending under Biden has resulted in government spending being a huge percent of GDP and stoked inflation. Stock market corrections are par for the course, particularly in this overheated market. If one had happened back in 2005 or 2006, he said, if someone had put the brakes on then, the 2008 collapse might not have happened. The stock market is not reality, Bessett emphasized. The ability to produce is reality. Continuing the policies undertaken by Biden, he underlined, would have resulted in another existential financial crisis and collapse. The policies being undertaken by Trump to restore production of the physical goods necessary for America's physical existence, progress, and defense is the rewiring which can save this economy from that crisis. The tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, which the media has created so much hysteria and fake news about, were about stopping fentanyl, which is killing American kids. Canada, despite its denials, is a key culprit here, both in terms of transporting the drug through networks there and in washing drug money. Implicit in the transformation Trump has undertaken is cutting waste, fraud, and abuse out of government spending and reordering the entire government towards fostering huge leaps in economic productivity. You can only begin to erase the huge $36.22 trillion in debt by reshoring of American manufacturing and industry. That's what all of Trump's tax, tariff, and other policies are about. Incentives to manufacture in the United States and create a viable physical economic base here yet again. Although Bessett did not address this directly, we have huge labor force and cultural problems to address immediately in that respect. One of them is educating our young people for the jobs of the future economy and creating a culture which fosters their creativity and sense of purpose. We have to upskill a large portion of our labor force. Our universities presently aren't in any way related to this major task. They are infested with an alien ideology of DEI and other nonsense. There are other cultural components Trump is working on. We'd personally like to see classical theater, music, and opera be the main feature of his takeover of the Kennedy Center. We'd also like to see daily reports on improvements in the physical economy and productivity featured in the daily news, dwarfing that feature of the stock market. Now, there are big discussions taking place behind the scenes about what to do to reorganize the debt generated by the 2008 bailout, COVID, and Biden's policies. It has to be restructured, and there is every indication that Trump's team is discussing this, not just internally, but with key players in the world, including China. This is not just a domestic U.S. problem. It exists because of the predatory nature of the current financial system throughout the world. Scott Bessett has noted that he is a student of the Bretton Woods fixed exchange rate system and has referenced that publicly on numerous occasions. It has also been made clear recently that Trump's economic team, including those around Musk, are studying the World War II mobilization of the U.S. economy under Roosevelt, but run by William Knudsen and Henry Kaiser, largely through a mobilization of the private sector of the U.S. economy. This private sector mobilization is what Scott Bessett keeps emphasizing, and which has already resulted in trillions of dollars of private investment in this revitalized U.S. manufacturing economy. Finally, I'd like to direct you to a fantastic class Tony Papper gave on Saturday night, giving you the philosophical basis of the system of sovereign nation states collaborating to achieve the highest aims of mankind, the new international order imagined and propounded by Donald Trump. He's repeatedly emphasized this and counterposed it to the horrific globalist order, which he is now dismantling. Whether he is completely conscious of this or not, Tony proved that Trump is an heir to history's heroes, starting with Solon of Athens and proceeding through Plato, Christ and his apostles, Joan of Arc, our founders, Lincoln and McKinley, and one great triumph of the human mind and cultural composition. Tune in and watch it, please. It will amaze you, and I was amazed. Otherwise, please go to Promethean Action and become a member. If you can only afford the baseline membership of $10, do it. It will be the wisest $10 you will have ever spent. Although we'd obviously like you to spend more if you can afford it, and if you enjoy, as a lot of people comment they do, these briefings. Thanks very much for listening. Susan will see you on Wednesday, and I'll see you again on Saturday.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.